Hello and welcome to In the Envelope, an awards podcast. I am your host, Jack Smart, awards editor at Backstage. I'm here to give you a front row seat to the industry's most exciting awards races. Who is in the running? What makes awards-worthy film and television? How can you, listener, win a statue of your own? We're sitting down with actors to get that insider's perspective on these questions and more, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get a tantalizing glimpse in the envelope.
He said, "This is going to be your part, Janney. This is yours." And I was like, he said, "You get to be this woman who wears a fur coat and has a bird on your shoulder, and you drink too much and you swear." And I was like, oh my God, she sounds like a hot mess. It's no wonder you thought of me.
These pretzels are good.
First time featuring pretzels on the podcast.
Yeah, a special guest.
Yeah, the chewing sounds are really... Allison Janney did not do any chewing sounds until towards the very end. I was afraid of doing the chewing sounds throughout.
Yeah, these microphones are very sensitive.
Uh-huh.
At least my stomach's not going to gurgle, hopefully.
Right, yeah, that can happen too. Can you believe that C.J. Craig was just here?
I know, the C.J. Craig.
The C.J. Craig of NBC's The West Wing for many years.
I had to be so careful not to refer to her as C.J.
Yeah, she was that person for a long time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
As she talked about in our interview. Gosh, what a career she's had too, because sure, she's maybe best known for C.J. Craig and for her TV work. She has 7 Emmy Awards.
Yeah.
But she's been in a ton of films too, and this list kind of goes on and on. Like some of my favorite films, like Juno and The Help and The Hours and Spy. I mean, she's been on Broadway. She was in the musical 9 to 5, which is like such a cute
American Beauty, which I forgot about.
American Beauty. That's a perfect example too of one thing that Allison Janney does very well, which is take a character that maybe has 1 or 2 scenes, maybe even only has 1 or 2 lines. And just displays this magnetic force, this magnetic power.
Definitely.
That makes us have to watch her, whether it's because there's something very intelligent about her character or there's something very wildly funny about her character or tragic. I mean, we talked a little bit about her arc in Masters of Sex and I, Tonya. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of tragedy and comedy in I, Tonya.
Well, her as an actor, she is huge, but she almost slips under the radar in a way because she doesn't throw herself out there as a person, but she very much does do that in character. You know, she
fits into any mold.
Yeah, exactly, and sort of embodies whatever that is. You know, it's like the perfect sort of application of the craft. You know, I feel like
I loved hearing just like little tidbits about her process of creating these characters, but also like the choices that she makes and the research that she would do.
Yeah.
We got to talk about I, Tonya in that regard a lot because it's a film where she's playing, on paper, I think, a pretty bizarre, goofy maybe even character.
Yeah.
But she sets out to do exactly what an actor does, which is figure out why does my character behave in this way? Why is LaVona Harding, who is Tonya Harding's mom in this movie, why is she so horrible?
Yeah.
How do I humanize her? How do I find out the reasons why she does everything she does?
Even if it's not real, it just helped her to get into that mindset. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some really interesting cigarette work advice.
Oh, there is.
Later in the interview.
There is indeed. That was a great little... I had kind of forgotten that was something I've always wondered, the Bette Davis thing of like...
Yeah.
I think of Bette Davis as someone who... Or Katharine Hepburn, or like any number of like amazing actresses who... And actors, maybe.
Yeah.
But actresses who are just so good at making cigarettes look cool. I abhor cigarettes.
Yeah.
I detest everything about them. But watching someone very cool smoke a cigarette on camera.
I mean, it's playing with smoke, and how is that not cool?
That's cool too. Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and there's just that air of sophistication.
Well, you want to be a bad guy in a movie or a bad lady in a movie, you make him a smoker.
Exactly.
It's shorthand.
It is.
For baddie.
And Allison Janney is just one of those people where you can ask... You could ask any actor about something as specific as smoking acting, but you just know that she's going to have an answer for that.
Yeah,
because she's one of the very best.
It was a great answer.
Yeah, she's one of the very best. We should get to it. I should work out how to pack in all of her many accomplishments and projects into one concise intro.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. I could just speed you up. later so you sound like a chipmunk.
Just do the full list. I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
Well, should we try it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's try it. Allison Janney has a whopping 7 Primetime Emmy Awards for her stunning work on the small screen, 4 as C.J. Craig in the NBC drama The West Wing. She currently stars on the CBS sitcom Mom and the upcoming Tonya Harding biopic I, Tonya from Neon Studios. She is also a 2-time Tony Award nominee and 2-time SAG Award winner, and the awards will just keep on coming. Here it is, our interview with the one and only Allison Janney. Well, I was joking that we would talk mostly about awards, and I don't know if it's going to be mostly, but I might want to start there because you're no stranger to awards in general, specifically. But is it safe to say specifically for TV? And are you familiar with like the quote unquote Oscars?
I've never been in this race before,
right.
The Oscars, and it's a different league. It's one that I'm excited to be part of because as an actress, you grew up thinking about the coveted, Oscar. To think that I'm finally part of that conversation, I'm surprised that it's with I, Tonya. Not that I don't love the movie. I just didn't think that my role was going to resonate with people so much. And I'm really glad that it has, and I'm excited to be looking at a possible nomination.
Totally.
It's completely thrilling, and what I've always wanted, whether or not how much I admitted that to myself or others is a whole other ball game,
Right. And is it a marathon? Is it more of it's obviously, I guess it's longer than a quote-unquote Emmy campaign.
It is. When I do the Emmys, I never think I'm doing a campaign.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it just all of a sudden I realized, there's stuff that goes into getting an award. You have to put yourself out there, do a lot of interviews, and it is a bit of a campaign. I think that surprised me growing up. I thought people just, people got awards just based on which I think it does come down to the work, but there's also a certain amount of getting your face out there so people remember, because there's a lot of different movies that are coming out now, and you have to keep yourself in the forefront of people's minds and keep your performance. I'm just going to sew a bird to my shoulder and walk around so everyone
to remind people of your... Remember, I'm the actress from that movie with the bird on my shoulder.
Exactly.
That's so funny. The comparison between TV and film, I mean, it seems like this has been a long time coming. And as you say, you didn't think it would be I, Tonya necessarily.
I didn't, but then I never think, you never know. I mean, I read this, I read the script for I, Tonya and thought, this is, and my friend Stephen Rogers, who I went to the neighborhood playhouse with here in New York, he wrote the script, and when I read it, I was like, this is brilliant, this is fantastic, but you never know if things are going to translate to an audience or how it's put together. I think he was really smart in hiring Craig Gillespie, who did Lars and the Real Girl, and Stephen wrote wanted a specific tone for this movie, and a lot of it is on the page, but to have someone who really understands that, the fine line you have to walk in this, which is telling someone's true story, and yet it's horrific. There's a lot of horrific elements, but it's a tragedy. It's a tragic comedy, whatever that hybrid is. Tragedy.
It totally is.
And Craig Gillespie just nailed it.
Yeah.
And all of us having to just nail our parts and be committed to it 100%. I mean, the stakes are really high in this movie for every character. Yeah. I think that's what tends to make it funny, when it's my character's wants and desires and the scenes I'm in juxtaposed to, what Tonya is going through is sometimes, oh my God, how are these people, how can they be talking about the same thing? It comes out as funny because of that, but not because we're trying to make anything funny, or we're not judging these characters at all. We're just telling their story according to Tonya Harding and Jeff Gillespie. I mean, this is their version of events. Yep. And Stephen Rogers very smartly decided to tell it from both their points of view, and then add in LaVona's, who he didn't actually have the get to meet her. He looked for LaVona Harding, and Tonya didn't know where she was and didn't really care. So it was mostly what you see on the screen is Tonya's version of her mother, and Jeff Galooly's version of his, his mother-in-law, and then a little artistic license from Stephen Rogers and a little Allison Janney thrown in there.
Right. Well, and it's safe to say you've not met LaVona.
No, but she resurfaced recently, funnily enough, in a Inside Edition story, and I was like, oh my God, she's alive. No one knows where she was, and she has a completely different name now, and had a similar attitude to LaVona, saying, oh, that didn't happen, I didn't do that, kind of that sort of point of view, or that sort of opinion about what Tonya's saying, and it's not too dissimilar from what we're showing about her character, because she, of course, believed that she was helping her daughter have a better life than she did, and everything she did was towards helping her daughter.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm excited to peel back some of those layers a little bit.
The end justifies the means. That's her motto.
And that is both tragic and comic, I think.
Yeah.
And of course, you would play it as seriously as possible, like you're saying, super high stakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely high stakes. Life is going to fuck you over if you don't, fuck it over first.
Yeah, interesting philosophy.
Tonya, LaVona just saying, not letting her daughter for a moment get soft. That awful scene, but tragically funny when she kicks her out of her chair when she's coloring. It's almost like there's part resentment of her being happy, and because LaVona's got to have come from a terrible childhood. She's got to have been abused and been in an awful situation. Yeah. So here she sees her daughter happily coloring, and it's like she says, "Don't get so comfortable," and kicks her out of her chair. Don't ever get comfortable is what that scene said to me.
Yeah.
And it was I had to find the reason why I did these horrible things and justify them because she wanted her daughter to have a better life than she did. At least that's what I told myself. That's what I was doing.
I see.
As LaVona.
And abuse. This is a movie about abuse, I think.
Well, it's part of Tonya's story, And
as you say, it's cyclical.
It's
right?
cyclical.
You inherit it.
It is, and it becomes strangely. What's really awful is seeing how ordinary it can look and common.
Exactly.
It's not like we made light of it at all. Mm-mm. That's what happens, and with violence and family, it becomes just part of everyday life. It's just part of what you go through every day as in a family that abuses each other, and then you carry that onto your relationship. And she's with a guy who hits her, and it's like, well, my mom hits me. How she's used to being hit. She thinks that's normal, which is really sad. And I think showing it that way, showing it in an honest, unsugar-coated way, it will resonate and be horrific because of how casual it is.
So you're handed this part, and you're looking at all of these, I think, despicable behaviors that she's enacting. And what is your job as an actor with that?
My job, first, I try to find the why. Why is she behaving like this? What does she want? Mm-hmm. And it became clear to me, especially in that last monologue that I have in the diner with Tonya, talking about, the way she brought her up, and, she was trying to make a champion out of her, trying to give her a life that LaVona never had, and and knowing that to do that she had to be tough on her, and she knew that her daughter would resent her and hate her for it, but she didn't care. She wanted her to have a life, and knew that the deck was stacked against her, and that she had to work twice as hard, and to get in that world of figure skating that demanded that you not only be, it should only have been about her talent as a skater. She was undeniably one of the best skaters, but she didn't fit into the image of what the figure skating community wanted a skater to be when they represented the United States. They wanted a skater to be, pretty and pink and have a family and be have all the bows and whistles, and Tonya was this just girl who wanted to skate to ZZ Top and just didn't fit into that image. And so they made it hard for her, and they didn't want her to succeed. And she succeeded in spite of it, even though it's a tragedy what happened to her. She was a champion. She was a champion, and still to this day is one of the only female skaters to land a triple axel. She's an athlete, and I hope that I think she wants to get back on the ice again, but I know that she was. After the whole incident, she was banned from ever skating again. But
right.
I'm not sure if that means she can't. I think she just can't get paid for it, but
she can skate.
I think so.
Well, gosh, what if this is an instance of like The Power of Hollywood where it reverses some decision, because it's not that this movie is actually trying to make her look that sympathetic. It's a warts and all picture.
No, it is, but it definitely. Yeah, you people will come away with a different opinion about her, because people remember the story. One that it was, she was the bad girl, and Nancy Kerrigan was the good girl, and that's the way that press told the story. It wasn't. You didn't really hear much about the other players involved and how.
No, I didn't know any of that.
No, I didn't either.
Details.
And what circumstances she comes from. It's really it makes you have a little more empathy for her, and still. Jury's out about whether she did it or not, but I think people will come away understanding her a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like it's one of many movies this season, or I guess in recent years, that seems to be looking at women in particular and just kind of looking at their roles in history, recent history or otherwise, with a different light, and just maybe giving them another chance and giving them a chance to be humanized on screen almost.
Yeah. Yes.
I just came from Molly's Game.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I can't wait to see that.
From your friend Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron and Jessica too.
And Jessica. Yeah. Which is very similar. It's also Olympic winter sports, and it's also a woman who's very much had the decks stacked against her and very much misunderstood.
That's true. I can't. I forgot that she was an Olympic skier, right?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that they're women who rose up in spite of their circumstances and became champions, even though in the end Tonya was stripped of. They can't take away the fact that she did what she did. Her talent, her skating ability, that will always be there. But all the other tragic circumstances of her.
The tarnished reputation.
People love that in America and everywhere, though, to tear down their heroes or see people fall from. I think they do.
Yeah.
They love to build you up, and then they also love to see you take a tumble.
Yeah, we love to see the tumble. We also love we sometimes can latch onto the forgiveness narrative.
Yes, that too. There's that part of it too. I guess it's the underdog trying to sort of achieve something, and then achieving the heights, and then falling from grace, and then forgiveness. And I don't know what the rest.
Well, and this movie just brings that to the forefront, because I think she accuses us, the audience, of being her abusers at one point.
Yeah, she does.
Really clever.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That you believed the worst in me too. You.
And I'm sitting there going, well, all I knew about this case was that in my head, she bashed Nancy's knee.
She didn't even, people think she physically did it.
I really did. I kind of think I thought that, yeah.
There was even some part of it where Nancy Kerrigan was part of the plot. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that part got taken out of the movie, but there was a talk of, there were all these different theories about what really happened.
It's such a bizarre story, too.
It is.
So you mentioned Stephen Rogers. What, he told Backstage, I believe, that he wrote the part for you, and you guys go way back. Yeah,
we started acting together back in the 80s. And
Here in New York.
Mm-hmm. That's where we first met, and we've been friends ever since. We both, he went out to Hollywood a little before I did, and he was acting, and then he just all of a sudden, he kept getting cast in the same part in the Foreigner, that play. He kept getting cast in that play.
Oh, like literally the same part?
Yes, the same part. And he just got tired of playing that part.
How weird.
So he started writing, and his first script was Hope Floats. And he's written parts. Every time, he's always said that he has, I've been a muse for him, and he's always written roles for me in everything he's ever written. And I've never gotten cast in them for one reason or another. But it was our little joke that, the part written for Allison Janney will be played by this time, insert actress's name. So this script, I knew he was going to write a movie about Tonya Harding, and that excited me because I used to be a figure skater myself.
Yes.
And I had dreams of going to the Olympics. It was kind of my first childhood dream before having a dream of being an actor. I thought I want to be an Olympic skater, and I was not that good. I was very graceful, but it's an acrobatic sport, and I'm a really tall woman, and it's just not.
It's the same way gymnasts can't be.
You can't. Yeah, I can't be. I couldn't be a gymnast and be. It just wasn't the right sport for me. So it worked out the way it was supposed to. But so when I heard he was writing this movie about Tonya Harding, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. I knew that he was going to go to Seattle and meet her and interview her and meet Jeff Gillespie and.
Wow.
And so he kept telling me, sharing little things he'd heard, and he was starting to write her mother, LaVona, and he said, "This is going to be your part, Janney. This is yours." And I was like, he said, you get to be this woman who wears a fur coat and has a bird on your shoulder, and you drink too much and you swear. And I was like, oh my God, she sounds like a hot mess. It's no wonder you thought of me for this role, Perfect part for me. I love women who are complicated and messy. And this is probably
like
one
Bonnie.
of the most complicated, like Bonnie, but this is one of the most complicated to get into her psyche and be able to do the kind of things and say this physically and verbally so abusive and yet give her some humanity and show that she was trying to do the best she could.
Yeah. Do you have fun playing a character like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's as long as the actor, like Margot was so much fun to work with, and she was really game and fearless when it came to jumping into a scene and having to be in the middle of a heated argument and just start throwing stuff at her. And I was like, I don't want to hit. She said, just throw it. I'll duck. I liked how she wanted to jump in and
cool.
and it was hard sometimes. Sometimes I don't trust myself to be able to go from a 1 and jump into a scene you're supposed to be at a 60. And I'm like, just sitting here, and it's like all of a sudden I got to be screaming and yelling, and you just start trusting that you're going to be able to do it. And with Margot, it was really fun. Then, but with McKenna Grace, the young girl who played Tonya, I was so afraid of hitting her with the hairbrush, and she was so cute. She said, Miss Allison, I know this is just a role. It's not who you really are, and I know you're such a nice person, and you can hit me harder because they put a lot of padding on my shoulder. So hit me harder because it'll make it look better. And I was like, all right. And I was like, the action, and I would start hitting her, and then having to kick her out of the chair. Yeah. She loved doing that stunt, so it made it fun for me.
Wow. I
know it's a terrible moment to watch a mother do to her daughter, but the filming of it was fun because McKenna enjoyed being kicked out of the chair, and I was just doing it, knowing that my reason was I didn't want her to get soft and I didn't want her to think anything was easy. It was like gave me the reason to do it. Like I know I'm doing, my objective was, I had a good reason for what I did.
Yeah. Gosh, she's brutal.
No, I know.
That's all like coming back to me now. I want to ask about the distinction between a supporting arc and a lead arc, especially because you have Emmys for the same role in The West Wing as both lead and supporting, which feels a little arbitrary almost. And a movie like this where LaVona is not, she's very much supporting. It's a smallish role, you could even say. It's not a small role in the way that you play her, and it's not small in the sense that we remember every moment of it.
Yeah. But
I've been asking people about how to set up an arc for a character when you have far fewer pages to do that in a script.
Well, I do it the same way as any large role, I guess. You do take what you have and make it yours and make it make sense and make it fit into the story. No matter who I'm playing or how big my part is, it's always that thing. This is a movie about a woman named LaVona. Like, you tell the story from your character's point of view. And cool. That's what the whole movie is about. It's about my character. It's not about her character. I just get in to tell my story.
Cool.
I also, I feel like in terms of supporting and lead, I think everybody is a supporting actor. I think everyone should be a supporting actor because
cool.
That's the definition of what acting is supporting. You have to be supportive of your scene partner. You have to be supportive, support the story, support the narrative, support the scene. And what I think that is the true definition of what actor you're there to support or be supported, whichever, and to know when to step out, when to step back, when to, it's a team sport. That's my thing. I've always said it's about working together, and it's collaborative, and sometimes it does seem. I mean, in this situation, it is a supporting role more than. And yet LaVona wouldn't say that. LaVona thinks
the movie is hers. Yeah.
That's my favorite line, well, my storyline's disappearing. What the fuck? I love saying that, like that.
The biggest laugh in the movie, I think.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Because that's how I've told someone. It's how I feel in most movie roles that I do.
Uh-huh.
Where the hell is my storyline?
You get to finally say it
I get
out
to
loud.
say it out loud. It's such a great moment that Stephen wrote. That's why I love things like that in the movie. They're so unexpected for supposedly a biopic, but it's so not.
Sure.
Just shatters what you think of a biopic being.
It's a movie about truth itself. As much as,
And an interesting time to have a movie be about truth itself. As truth is such a malleable thing right now, and in a very unmooring time for us in America and everywhere to feel like what is truth anymore? Who says? I mean, is there any ultimate? I know this is a bottle of water in front of me. That's I know that's true, but and those great commercials now that Apple's doing with some people may tell you this is a banana, but it's an just everyone is questioning truth, and some people the lengths that some people go to convince you that something is real is not real or not true. It's crazy making.
Remarkable. Yeah,
it's the gaslighting of America by so many ways.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, it's also just an interesting time. Coinciding with that is this time in Hollywood, which I don't know how much we want to get into it, but this is a very interesting year or moment for Hollywood. And as you mentioned, this is your first go-around with the quote-unquote Oscar race. Mm-hmm. And I do really get the sense that it's just different from any other year for women and for men as well.
Men as well, yeah. I didn't used to think that men had to suffer the abuses of power in a sexual way, but that was sort of naive of me to think that. I just didn't. I always knew about the casting couch growing up, but I never had to deal with it.
Yeah.
Thank God, never. No, and I don't know why. Maybe I think I had achieved success a little later in life, so I was never in a position where anyone would want to or could abuse me for any. Like I was never up for any. I don't know. I feel very grateful and lucky that I never had to deal with it. But it's time that changes, and I think as we slowly, women and men being paid the same, just that conversation that will change things. I think this is all part of that conversation of being
absolutely
women and men being on the same playing field, being women having the same amount of respect and
right, because it's all about the power dynamics. If you equalize that, at least in
yes,
the money
thank you.
standpoint.
That's exact. Thank you for saying that the way I wanted to say it. Saying it to equalize.
Have you seen Battle of the Sexes as well?
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I want to see that.
You're the Help co-stars are everywhere.
I know. I just did a discussion with Jessica and Emma and Mary J. Blige, who did the music, one of the
cool.
songs for The Help. So we've all been sort of
every year, you guys are all part of this conversation. I've been joking that this podcast is just going to be the Help podcast and get everybody on.
Thanks, Tate Taylor and Catherine Stockett.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Catherine Stockett's next novel is going to be coming out.
Oh, yeah?
Any time now. I cannot wait for that.
Are you already priming yourself for a role in that movie?
She better have a part for me in that. Damn it.
That's so great.
Yeah.
You've just been in some of the best, my favorite films. Just like
really, what
whipping up this list of like I had forgotten that you were in Finding Nemo, for example.
Oh yeah, that's the longest red light or shortest red light. I can't remember what my line was at the end of that.
You played a starfish?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cute.
Peach, yeah.
Anyway, I want to go back to the beginning too, because your You grew up in Ohio. Your mom was an actress?
She went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts here in New York City. After she went to Bennington College in Vermont, she went to a 2-year college there, and she came here. And she did a lot of summer stock. She was roommates at one point with Eileen Brennan and Rue McClanahan. She did plays with Tony LoBianco and Tallulah Bankhead, and you know, she had reviews. She had one review which I love, saying that she was complimented on her beautiful legs. My mother had great legs. She was a dancer. And then she met my father, who works at Compton Advertising here in New York as a copywriter, and they went out on a blind date, and then they soon, you know, they moved to Ohio. They met here, and then he went to Harvard Business School, which is where I was born in Boston, and then we moved to Ohio, to Dayton and Cincinnati.
But the acting, so was that inspired by your mother?
A little bit. I think when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, I didn't really, you look to your parents to like, what did they do? You know, I had no idea. I did plays in high school, definitely. You know, my first role, I was cast as Noah Claypool in Oliver, the Undertaker's son. My first role.
It's a great first role.
Yeah. And I think just knowing that my mother was an actress is what steered me in that direction. And we'd go to Chicago to go to the museums, and it just happened to be, I'm sure my mother planned it this way, to go see Eileen, who was doing a play in Chicago. So I got to stay up late and see her. And I just, the idea started there, and then going to Kenyon College in Gambier, Ohio, and they had a great, beautiful new theater they built there the year I came, and Paul Newman, who went to Kenyon College, came back to direct the first play in the brand new theater. And I got to meet him and Joanne Woodward, and they became mentors of mine, and they suggested I come to the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York. So they sort of were responsible for me ultimately choosing acting as a possible career. I was terrified to say that, because I thought, oh God, I'll be a terrible. So many actors are having to wait, and I waited tables some when I first got here, and I was a terrible waitress. So I was a really, and it took a while. You know, I moved here, and I went to the Playhouse 82, 84, and my, you know, I think I did Big Night in maybe 96 or 97 or, you know, so it was over 10, 12 years I was here before anything happened. Perseverance. And, you know, I tried to think of what else I could do, but there wasn't.
You kept coming up with just acting.
Acting. I did aptitude tests at the Johnson O'Connor Institute, and they told me I'd make an excellent systems analyst.
It's not what I was.
I feel like they all were sitting around going, "What are we going to tell her? She's nothing. What are we going to say? She's a systems analyst." You know, so I now say that that's what I apply to my acting. I'm kind of a systems analyst when it comes to a role. I look at a part and I have to analyze it and figure out what makes it work and how will it fit into this system, into this play. You know,
very cool. So the aptitude test is correct.
Yes, exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah. Did you use Backstage? Were you familiar with
Of course
Backstage?
I did. I had the newspaper. Oh my God, yes. I'd circle things in the back that I was right for. And you know, oh my God, yes. That was what I grew up on with Backstage magazine newspaper. It was the first, and I can't even remember, it came out every week or it was weekly, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it always came out on Thursdays. So it comes out on Thursday now. But and then what was the next big step? You were on a 1940s black and white faux comedy. It was your first TV show, which I have never heard of, but I desperately need to see now.
Oh my God, you have to Google to see Morton and Hayes.
Morton and Hayes.
That came about. Why did I go out? I was out. I didn't move out to LA, but I was definitely out there with a boyfriend who, and I auditioned for that. For this series that Rob Reiner and Christopher Guest were doing. I think I did. Spinal Tap is one of my favorite movies of all time, so I was more than a little nervous going in
to Christopher Guest,
to audition for them. But and Bob Amaral and Kevin Pollak were in that. Kevin Pollak later played my my love interest on Mom,
Oh, cool.
Bonnie's ex-boyfriend,
very cool.
and father of Anna Faris's character. So I'm just trying to, I wish I could remember the casting director, Mark Hirschfeld. I think, I'm trying to think if that's right. Anyway,
But was that the first big on-screen?
yeah, I did. I had done a role.
break.
I had done a little part on the Cosby Show back in the day from New York, where they filmed out at Silver Cup, I think, or whatever.
Yeah.
It was that show, and not. And I had a small little part of a janitor or something on that. But that. I'm so bad when it comes to the chronology of events in my life.
Well, you've done so much.
I can't remember, but I
Sure.
know that was really early on, the Morton and Hayes.
Yeah,
And
that
it was
sounds
sort
very
of
cool.
the lost episodes of a la the Honeymooners, kind of the lost episodes of Morton and Hayes, this famous comedy duo, and they've unearthed them under some parking lot that was dug up, and they found them, and so that was how it was billed, and it was unfortunately it was on CBS, and unfortunately it was done in black and white, so most people just didn't like, what's wrong with
They're
the
not
TV?
gonna-
They didn't want it. They didn't want it.
That's
so
still not a thing.
they only aired like 2 or 3 of them, and they got pulled. I think we filmed 6 or 7. And I loved it.
Yeah,
To work with
that sounds great.
my comedy heroes, it was pretty cool.
Cool.
To get to do that. And I'm still pretty proud of some of the comedies. So you must Google that.
Absolutely.
And look for that.
Amazing. But was that then, did that open doors to other bigger gigs, or
That,
how did The West Wing come about?
well, that. Okay, so this is how that came about. Nikki Silver, one of my favorite playwrights and human beings, wrote a play called Fat Men in Skirts that I did, and I don't remember what year. You're going to have to figure. You have to Google that. I did that with the Naked Angels Theater Company.
Yes.
Joe
know them
Mantello
well.
directed it.
Oh, cool.
Stanley Tucci was in it with me, and Marissa Tomei. It was right after Marissa had won her Oscar.
Wow.
Okay, so that was when we can go figure that out. So that was the mark. I remember because I remember that. And Matt McGrath. And it was a play of the 4 of us, and it was one of my favorite theater experiences. It was just a wild play, and a lot of fancy people came to see it. We only did like 8 performances, but one of those fancy people was named Mike Nichols.
Yes.
Mike Nichols, who wrote me the loveliest letter after he saw my performance in that, which I still have framed in my office. He invited me to be part of Primary Colors. Primary Colors, and the pratfall I got to do in Primary Colors, which was because I did Noises Off in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Okay, cool.
And learned how to watched Bill Bowers learn how to fall down the stairs. By the Rick Sordelay, the fight choreographer, taught him how to fall down the stairs, and I watched because I was fascinated.
Cool.
So
Everybody
I
talks about
remembered
that stair fall as the how to learn farce. Yeah.
I remembered that fall.
That's cool.
And so when Mike Nichols asks me right 5 minutes before we shoot, "Oh, can you fall down these stairs?" I was like, yeah, I think I can actually. I was like, I think I can. I can, and I was like so grateful that all those years ago I had been glued to this fight choreographer working with Bill Bauer, watching them create this fall. So I got to do that, and I know Aaron Sorkin is a huge fan of Mike Nichols and politics, and had was creating The West Wing. And he saw that, and I know that's why I was brought in for it. But I had to audition for it.
Okay.
There were a lot of other wonderful actresses I saw in that room when I was auditioning. So I was quite sure after each audition that was going to be the last. I was like, well, they didn't like me, so moving on. Then I kept getting called back in, and that surprised me that I got it, but I know that's how come. And then I did a play, Alan Ball's play, 5 Women Wearing the Same Dress, with Manhattan Class Company, with Bernie Telsey and Robert Lupone and Will Candler's company down on when they had their theater on 17th
Before
or 18th
MCC,
Street,
yeah.
MCC. I did that play, and then Alan Ball wanted me to be part of American Beauty. So I told Sam Mendes, who directed American Beauty, I want you to see Allison Janney for this part. And then I got that. So everything good in my life came from the theater, from my work in the theater and summer stock. And, I was it was where all roads led back to the theater.
And then The West Wing, I assume, what was the impact of that? What effect has that had on your career?
Well, it had a huge impact on my personal life and my relationships with my family and friends, who almost all disowned me during that period because
Really?
Because it was like 18-hour days I was working.
Oh.
I don't think cell phones were really a thing back then when I started to do it. So I never returned people's phone
just dropped
calls.
off the face of the
I
earth.
sort of dropped off the face of the earth.
Wow.
I think my older brother still will never forgive me for that. But it was hard to maintain friendships, and I fell in love with my cast. Loved it so much. I was so grateful for the experience. But, I'm exaggerating only slightly. There were obviously I have some of my dear friends who have forgiven me, and I see them. But they have to. No one understands it unless you're in the middle of something like that. And to have an experience like that just overwhelmed me. The amount of dialogue I had to learn and be verbatim with every single.
You had a lot of words.
Huge press briefing, and not to mention the fact I'm not someone who knows a lot about politics, so I had to read these books on press secretaries. I just sort of immerse myself.
TV, you're pumping these episodes out.
Yeah,
right?
And you go home after a 18-hour day, and you had to learn lines for the next day. So I didn't really have time to talk to anybody. So
for years, for 8.
And I missed a lot of family. Functions, a lot of weddings, funerals. Missed, there's nothing in life comes without compromise or sacrifice, and it was an incredible gift, that show for me. I'm so proud of not just being part of that beautiful show, but also embodying a character that's so beloved and revered and changed a lot of inspired a lot of young girls to go into public service. That was an extraordinary side effect of doing this role that I had never thought that would happen. No, and as a result of enacting as a character that I portrayed, and that feels so great to have people come up and tell me how important that character is to them and how it inspired them to change careers or go into public service or do. It's really kind of.
But as you say, you have to make the sacrifice. It's part of being, I think, specifically network TV, but also an actor in general. Sometimes you take on a gig that does not allow you to have a lot of balance in other aspects of your life.
Yeah. It doesn't.
Is the same true for Mom? I assume it's a little easier.
No, Mom it has different challenges, but it's the most civilized schedule an actor can have in the world. It is the best schedule. I can't even gush about it enough. It's so brilliant. 2 weeks on, 1 week off.
Oh,
hello?
Wow. Well, but are you filming now? No.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm filming as we speak. I'm thinking of that. I'm cleaning my oven as we speak. We are on Thanksgiving break right now.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I'm here. But it's just the best. And, Monday through Friday when we are shooting, Monday through Wednesday is like literally 9 to 2.
Okay.
9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thursdays maybe 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And Fridays like 12 noon to 8 or 9 p.m. And that's it.
I see. It's not 80 pages of dialogue for 1 hour-long episode.
No, you do have to. The line learning you get a little, I get lazy and I wait till the last minute. And so it makes it really challenging. And then also while you're filming in front of the live audience, the writers do a lot of floor pitches where if a line doesn't get a laugh that they want, then they rewrite it. They come in with new lines for you, and you got to memorize it right there. And
then have the wittiest, funniest delivery.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. But I like that challenge. It's a fun game for me. I love it.
And you get to pull out all your physical comedy in that show.
I do. I'm so glad they write to that for me to just slide down banisters, jump over couches, whatever. I'll throw myself into it. I like that.
How do you do it? How are you so funny? It's something I always want to ask funny people.
I don't.
You can't pick it apart because then it.
I know. I don't know. I think it's my mother, my Aunt Eloise. I had a lot of funny women in my life. My mother, and not funny. They weren't funny joke tellers. They're just their behavior was funny. It made me laugh. The things that's what makes me laugh. About the characters I play, I like to know that they're fun. I don't try to be funny. I just know that in order to make it funny, I have to be committed 100% to what I'm doing, and that will be funny. But actually trying to find that is the physical comedy. Yeah, like I know if I'm on Mom and I've got to get out a window and I'm wearing a skirt, I'm going to pick my skirt up over my hips. I'm going to show my underwear because that'll be funnier than or I'm going to rip this skirt. I'm going to try.
Yeah.
I will always make a bold or the funny physical choice. If I have to get from point A to point B, if I get to jump over a couch to get there, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm very brave that way, and I love that I'm very physical. I'm very tall. I did a lot of ballet and dance and ice hockey and the skating and field hockey, and was very athletic. So I think that's why. And I've just got long arms and legs and everything. Yeah. So just throw myself into it. Years of watching Carol Burnett show, watching those. Oh my God, that was that was church to me, is watching Carol Burnett show and just idolizing them and their choices, and I love Carol Burnett.
And on a show like that, or I guess in general, whenever you're doing physical comedy, are you ever told to rein it in? Or are you ever told to make it bigger?
No. They usually tell me to take it down a notch.
Oh, okay. But that's the sign that you're doing it right?
Well, yeah, I will always go bigger. If I get a note, Joe Mantello, oh my God, he loves to laugh at me. He gives me a little note, like, could you just add a little more to this? And I go to 11.
Yeah, to 11.
To 11. And he's like, just starts laughing. Janney, bring it back, 9 and 9. But I will always go big, and then I can modify it. But better to go big and, maybe, and I can go bigger too.
Absolutely, you could go to 12.
I can go to 12.
Well, so is it the same for drama, for like a scene, like in Masters of Sex? Is it the same idea of like, I'm going to make is it a factor of like risk? I'm going to take a bigger risk with this moment?
Well, it depends on what scene. That was a very quiet role for me.
Yeah.
I like to, that was a more innocent and quiet, searching, sad role that I didn't go big with that. I just listened and knew that I was this woman was so trying to figure out why she felt inadequate and so unhappy and so like she wasn't enough for her husband. She just didn't understand. And listening to her girlfriends talk about their sex lives and just listening and be able to play those scenes with no words, just listening and feeling the inner, like how I don't have, that's not what I'm having experience. That was fun to do too, though, in that way, because I like being, that character was an amazing character to play. And then finding this young love with, Teddy Sears, and discovering that. That awakening was so lovely and delicate to play, but a much more, very, very different kind of role, which I love as well.
How much of it is about listening?
In acting in general? Or that's always been my acting is listening. I mean, that was the big thing I learned at the Neighborhood Playhouse is to listen.
Yeah.
That's how you react truthfully under the imaginary circumstances, is to listen and answer. And that, when I remember that and I'm not in my head, it's such a great way to act, because then things really happen to you in the moment. That's what the bird did to me in I, Tonya.
Okay.
It didn't let me think. Like, I just was trying to tell my story, and this bird is there poking at me and trying to distract me. And it was like...
It's a scene partner.
It was just great. One of my favorite animals scene partners ever. The best. He kind of did a lot for me, my performance, I think, too. Just made me a little pissed off.
Yeah.
And trying to tell my story, and a couple times I had to tell him to shut up in LaVona
But it says
fashion.
so much about the character that she has a bird on her shoulder, and like, why? And like...
And I said, it was the one improv that Stephen had loved me saying that this is my, I introduced him as my fifth husband.
Oh, right.
The still nagging at me,
right.
Later, but I can handle him. And
is that also like, how much does the outside in approach work of like the physical transformation for someone like LaVona the furs and the hair.
Oh my
and the
God.
glasses.
That whole look is so
The
divine.
look. Like when you look at yourself in the mirror, when you look like that, like what happens?
Well, see, I have a hard time watching myself on screen because I'm a harsh critic of my face and its aging things, and as most people are. But to go through the 3 hours of makeup and hair for LaVona, when I saw that final product, I just fell in love with her. I loved looking at my face like that, and it was so far removed from me and where I am. It was liberating for me, and I thought the costumes and the production design and set decoration were so spot on and beautiful. I couldn't wait to sit on that couch and tell LaVona's story. And with that bird and the whole image, and I saw the picture. Someone took a picture off the video at the Video Village and showed it to me, and I thought, this looks like a Diane Arbus photo. This looks just I just was so honored and thrilled to be part of all that, and that all informed my character so much. Also, it let me, like, I didn't have to worry about any, and that was all there. I didn't have to, you know, I just had to tell my story.
Yeah,
and
like
all this would speak for itself.
Yeah, you're talking about these living in imaginary circumstances. Some of those circumstances are also the look, or also like your actual appearance.
and the oxygen tank thing came around because the bird lady wouldn't let us smoke around the bird, and so I asked the wonderful prop guy that he had one of those oxygen tank and breathing things, and he said, I think I do, and I said, go get it. And it was like 5 minutes before we shot, that came together, that part of it.
That was your idea.
And that was my idea, because I thought, well, it makes sense that she would have emphysema after smoking through every scene. Yeah. And we saved the bird's life, and we'll see if I, saved my life. But.
It's so interesting. The idea of like putting on a mask almost liberates you, or like allows you to be more.
Oh my God! Don't you know in Halloween when you go out and you have a mask on, I felt
like a superhero.
I went once as the Invisible Man. To Halloween, and with the bandages around my head and glasses, and it was so cool to go to a party and have no one know who I was.
That's really cool.
I felt so brave and confident. Yeah. So I felt that way with LaVona's mask.
Like brave and hiding almost. Yeah. I have always wanted to ask this question, but never knew that I wanted to ask this question until this moment. Cigarette acting.
Yeah.
How? Your cigarette acting in this movie is so hilarious and amazing.
You're so sweet.
You're looking like, oh God, I had to smoke so many cigarettes.
I did. And I made the mistake of picking, I didn't think, and I had quit smoking and then had sort of picked it up again and then quit. It's just been one of those awful habits. And I've quit again this time for good.
After that role.
But after that role, I didn't want to ever see another cigarette. But I picked those long brown cigarettes that were like those Moore cigarettes back in the day in the 70s. And because I thought that seemed like LaVona would smoke something that looked more like a cigar than a cigarette. I just felt like it was a good choice. The color, I like the color of the cigarettes. And so I did the first scene. I had to go right into it, and I needed to pick one right before. It was like 6 a.m, and I was on that ice skating rink smoking that thing, and they were like, come on, take a big, they wanted for the shot for me to do an exhale, so I had to keep inhaling, and I promptly went to the bathroom and had to throw up. And then afterwards, I said to the prop guy, can we get the herbal version of this? And he said, that's the only one that doesn't have the herbal version, the brown ones. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I knew that that was my choice for her, and so I had to smoke those in every scene. I would, off camera, I would try to do one of those vape things, so smoke would be evident, but so I didn't have to smoke the cigarette. But there's a funny story about cigarette smoking and bird acting with birds, and when I first had to smoke in some project, I can't remember, but someone said the way to look cool smoking is to never look at the cigarette. You just never look at it. When you're taking it out of the pack, whenever, you just don't look at it. So I thought, well, I'm going to apply that to the bird too. Maybe that'll look like we have a relationship where I don't have to look at him because I know he's there and he's always on my shoulder, and I'm not going to look at him, even though birds kind of, freaked me out a little bit. I'm an animal lover, but I've never had a bird or worked with them, so I kind of like, oh, please. I was like, I worked with turkeys on the West Wing, and those birds were there were some really funny outtakes of that when they just start gobbling, and I would scream at the top of my lungs and jump out of frame.
The turkeys are terrifying.
They are a little terrifying, but... Oh.
That's so great. Just don't look at the cigarette. It's the cool.
Yeah,
that's what Betty Davis always did.
Just don't look at the cigarette.
Yeah.
And then it says, you'll be cool, but just don't smoke.
But also just don't smoke in general.
Also just don't smoke.
I love hearing how you craft these little characters. You make these choices. Like you had to pick the brown cigarette, and then that was the choice. That's the one that makes the most sense, and that's part of the character.
I felt very that was what she would have smoked. And I don't think the real LaVona Harding smoked, but Stephen wanted her to smoke just to say that line on the rink where Julianne Nicholson's character says, you're not allowed to smoke. And so LaVona says, oh, I'll just smoke it quietly then.
Yeah.
And that was the reason why Stephen wanted her to smoke. I'm like, God, I hope my lungs are okay after that.
Well, this is all really wonderful, and I thank you so much for joining us today. I usually close by asking for, what's your last-minute acting advice for the early career actor? You know who the Backstage readers are. You know who our listeners are. Well,
I'll tell you what helped me, what kept me going through all those times where I wasn't working is to continue to, if you can, to take classes and study, whether go take an improv class, take a scene study class with someone, take a music appreciation class, I don't know, always keep yourself connected to other people who are, and keep studying and learning, and also Stephen Rogers' advice is whenever you get to audition, remember this is you get to act today.
Yeah.
Don't think of it as a awful thing. Just go in and you get to act. And how lucky for you, how lucky for them that they get to see you act today.
With a real audience.
Yeah.
And the stakes are higher in an audition because there's something on the line, which I think ups your game, right?
It does.
Rather than
and
just...
the more you can do exactly what you want to do and not what you think they want you to do, the better. I made that mistake. I always tried to please and do whatever I think how do you want me to be? And
try to guess.
Instead, I just the more you bring yourself to something, the more chances are you will be appreciated for that because no one else is like you. So
if you had gone out for C.J. Craig as trying to be some other actress or imitate someone, then there's no way.
No, I don't know what I did in that audition. I always sometimes I get cast as those women who are kind of in charge of like my first and present laughter on Broadway. Liz Essendine is in charge of, Gary's life, and it's all crazy, and he's an actor who's absurd and childlike, and she's got to keep the ship running smooth, and she's the one who holds everything together, the glue. I always play those sorts of roles. LaVona's not so much the glue, but she tries to be in her own, I think she feels like she's trying to hold things
and Bonnie's,
together.
I think, glue in a way.
Bonnie is
the matriarch.
Is I would not say Bonnie's the glue.
No,
but she is. She's a troublemaker.
She's the heart of that show.
She is heart, though. Yeah. She does
have
love, but she just. Girl, she's crazy.
I can't believe you're filming that in addition to doing this. Full day of press.
That's how my year started out. I was shooting Mom. I was rehearsing 6 Degrees of Separation. I was flying to Atlanta to shoot I, Tonya. All at the same time I was doing all that. I mean, obviously not at the same time, but I was not ever not doing one of those three things.
Big year. That's a big year. Well, I thank you so much for joining us on this busy day. Well, I know that acting is not easy. In fact, if there's anything we've learned on this podcast, it's that there's a lot of work that has to go into a lot of very different kinds of work that has to go into it. Yeah. However, talking to Allison Janney, there is something effortless about her, and there's something effortless about the process for her. And a lot of that just comes from the joy of the craft, and that really came through in this chat.
Yeah. Definitely. And a number of people have said that to put out a good performance, you have to have that sort of element of feeling relaxed and being comfortable in your own skin and, in front of the camera, but also in person. I think, you're relaxing the people that are around you, your co-stars, and putting everyone at ease. And I felt like that around her.
Totally.
And I felt like she gave that vibe.
Yeah, well, and as we're learning, so much of it is about listening, as she said. And people who are good listeners in life are naturally very good at sharing scenes.
Yeah.
Even if it is with a scene partner like a bird, for example.
Yeah. Well, she was very good at acting not being freaked out by it.
Exactly. I loved hearing that that's one of her favorite scene partners.
Yeah.
And she's had many.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Allison.
Yes.
And I would say best of luck going forward with all of these many award shows, but awards just are rightfully thrown her way.
Yeah.
I will say one thing about this interview that we did not manage to capture on the microphones because she said it on the elevator coming up was that she was thinking about possibly fusing all of her Emmys together and to make a table, to make a piece of furniture in some way. But she was worried about saying that because she doesn't want to offend anyone and, of course, appear ungrateful or anything. But she has reached a point as an illustrious actor where she must have a shelf or a room at least.
Oh, she's going to have to get a new shelf.
Exactly. It's a funny problem. It's a good problem to have too many awards.
You know, she's a very funny person.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I know her tongue was very much in her cheek when she said that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And infectiously so. She's really, really enthusiastic and just lovely. So, well, shall we roll credits?
I think so.
In the Envelope is recorded at Lotus Productions, Hyperbolic Audio, and Big Yellow Duck in New York City. Thanks, as always, to producer, editor, and all-around podcast wizard, Jamie Muffett. You can follow him on Twitter at JamieMusicNYC. You can follow me, Jack Smart, on Twitter at JackSmartWrites. Thank you, of course, to the team at Backstage, the most trusted name in casting for over 50 years. Peter Rappaport, Mark Stinson, Francis Ramos, Rawaan Alkhatib, and especially the phenomenal Kasey Howe. For more awards and industry coverage, head over to Backstage.com. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another glimpse in the envelope.